Dear TYT, attention Cenk. First of all, disclosure, I need a job. The intent of this email is to convince Cenk that my offer is what TYT needs to reach mainstream audiences, reforming the Democratic Party. As I say in the attached video introduction, recorded candidly March 19th, shortly before beginning to write this, I am the man other people say they are. Remember when we would commonly take 2 weeks to write a letter? There has never been a job posting that utilizes my skills, because there has never been a person like me in the job market. A producer, maybe? But there aren't many companies offering creative control to an applicant, when perhaps they should be. I shot the attached Google Drive video at random in a single unrehearsed take. Not that it's great or anything, but I want you to see that I am a real person, and as natural on camera as I am in written format, should that ever be of use to the network. But now I need to show the receipts, as I often say. My young friend of 17 helps run one of my many political groups. She insists that I am the real Batman. Ask her yourself. I agree, she cites fact, but the Jeffrey Lebowski, in a van down by the river Batman, and Christian Slater's uncle has called me, both, the Woody Harrelson of 2012, and the real life, my brother, his nephew, of Pump Up the Volume. My principles and integrity, based in truth and justice, are uncompromised, come before anything, and like Batman, I am willing to play the villain for the greater good. You have no one on your network like this, I have noticed, and I am a big fan. I was a Vash supporter, but no more. I was a David Pakman supporter, but no more. However, TYT is a utility, so I pay my $5. Even Mehdi, you and Anna have biases, whether no-fault divorce or your undeserved shade on AOC. I regularly go after Brianna Joy Gray on her Patreon over this too, by the way. But despite my futile countless hours trying to build a successful social media-based career in journalism of my own, I ultimately depend on rare collaborations from accounts like yours to share my daily feeds. You still saw me hold you to account every time, one of my specialties you can always depend on. Check out my Instagram if you haven't already. And you'll agree there are not many people doing what I'm doing, but there is nobody truly uncompromised like me, and there are few as far ahead of the game. Very few. I was just fired from Amazon for the same thing, in short, union busting. I was getting too noisy and they didn't want my fellow associates to have access to my 3 decades of union knowledge any longer. I began voicing my concerns and grievances to corporate and to our company bulletin board, knowing it might cost me my job when I was not in a position to go without income. When excitable reactionaries post screenshots of excerpts from my writings to various boards, like Reddit, as was done with my internal Amazon posts, the replies to the threads consistently read, I went to his account, but I'm now even more confused. And this is the main reason my following doesn't grow. Social media has revealed to me that my hands are tied. The internet doesn't traffic in nuance. Confirmation bias dictates that users and even many truth seekers are quick to dismiss influencers who challenge their point of view, especially when they don't sell sex to entice viewers to engage in said nuance as they test the waters of a particular channel or source. I've always believed I might one day save the world, since my Matrix DVD awakening as a 16-year-old in the year 2000. Because those who know me well believe I can strategize, maneuver, and operate in ways few can. That said, without an established platform, my efforts are wasted and at the expense of all of us, the way I see it. I appreciated your video about the departure of Francesca Florentini, and even more especially Friday's piece about Greg Casar. For all I know, this could be a politically advantageous move for one or both of you. But what I found most significant, and why I decided it would be worth my time writing this lengthy screed, is that you have recently confirmed what I've always believed to be true. Cenk is a big tent Democrat who accepts those with dissenting opinions without drawing a line in the sand over each conflict. I get the same and worse. Misogynist, transphobe, incel, pedo, anti-Semite, cuck, chud, liberal, MAGA. Just asking good faith questions. I truly run the gambit of ad hominem attacks. Why do they employ the same emotional blackmail debate tactics as Zionists? When you can't argue facts or procedure, pound the table. If trans ideology is to ever be treated like a real thing, it'll need to stand up to scrutiny as any other community would be expected. Refusing to ally with those one disagrees is a losing strategy, no matter the popularity of a particular ideology at any given time. It's one that I need to see you discuss even more. 79%, as you reported from CNN, disagree with our representatives in the Beltway, lobbyists, and in our media with regard to trans sports. I began to lose respect for Florentini long ago, closing herself off to fans and supporters on Instagram when you message back. I take that as a sign creators aren't interested in criticism and, much less, introspection. They only seek to become celebrity influencers, rather than representing their respective communities. Florentini illustrated this berating Piers Morgan as a hack desperate for clicks, and I wouldn't fault him for not inviting her back. Waz, too, stopped responding to Instagram tags, almost certainly because of me. Even Anna responds on TikTok, and the two of you are far busier than your contributors, but I prefer Instagram myself. It's the main reason my account doesn't grow. Thank you, and Anna, for being more clear on your positions. I always found Anna nervous discussing it, implying she believes what we all do, but is aware of the repercussions. It's a cosmic coincidence you'd bring up trans sports while I was writing this letter over the last 2 weeks, turning it into an essay nearly 2 years in the making. As you'll see when you watch these 2 summer 2023 TikTok videos. Because part of my proposed work as a TYT partner is winning over the other parties with unapologetic honesty. My perspective is that fascism should be rejected in every form it takes, especially when politically expedient to one's own party, as hypocrisy arms the opposition. If they can see that you're lying for partisanship, they will reject everything you and your party believe. I know from the perspective of someone who once voted for George Walker Bush 3 times that people can evolve. And I never lived in Texas, so take that as you may. It's my long belief Democrats can win the 33% of untouchable MAGA deplorables if they wanted them. People are sheep. Before inevitably becoming accepted as common knowledge, my ideas are consistently shunned, I am silenced, and my character discredited. Last week on Joman's Facebook page, I alluded to the possibility I was gay for emphasis of a joke, but everyone interpreted it as sad, rather than ironic and misogynistic as intended. And the misinterpreted responses I received from women even I might be attracted to were among the most heartfelt and supportive I'd ever received online. But only 1 week earlier, the same sample of Joman Facebook subscribers did berate me for their perception that I was being sexist, when it really can't be argued honestly that I was. However, as we all know, only men can be sexist and only women can be victims. So, naturally, it was just a couple of freak coincidences that a gang of lesbians at SF State University sexually assaulted me at 21, as did Angelina Jolie when I was 13, who over the last 8 years invited me to her home multiple times, dangling producing my screenplay above my head to keep me from me-tooing her, exposing her as a pedophile, as she was amid an infamous custody battle. This act of gaslighting against especially straight white men is why the left lost so many to Andrew Tate, Charlie Kirk, incel culture, MAGA, and etc. And the left just want to throw us away like trash. We're not even allowed to speak up about the male loneliness epidemic, much less cite our own anecdotal evidence, so we're all supposed to swallow the data that 75% of suicides are male, because it might jeopardize the many exploits of women's liberation. Well, voting doesn't work that way, Mr. or Mrs. Purple Hair. How long is the left going to put up with losing over legitimizing body modification culture? It's political gangrene, equivalent to defending Israel. No one in their right mind agrees frankly anyone should be doing this, and those who say otherwise know that they're short on facts at best, outright lying at worst. I made 2 videos about this 2 summers back I'll include. Pay close attention to the interview with Dr. Marcy Bowers. She all but admits she can't argue the facts. And the weirdest thing is, Cenk, you used my dying on this hill analogy about this very issue 2 nights ago, 20-ish months later, as I'm finishing up this email. And yes, I made a quick fun video about the Joman thing. Watch here. Speaking of the MAGA 33%, if they knew about Gaza, they would be mad as fuck about this shit too. I know. Because they told me when I went to my local mega church. Trump said goodbye to the Gazans on that iftar dinner. I must say, he did it in expert class. And it made me want to go to his resort, to be honest. Trump, who enacted a Muslim ban in 2016, became the first US president to speak Arabic on live TV. Ramadan Mubarak. just 2 words for 2 million lives. Yet he will go down as a hero for peace in the Middle East, achieving the conquest of a greater Israel, while forcing Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and etc. to grant citizenship to all, if any, remaining Palestinians in the occupied territories. Hooray, everybody's happy. So we'll just go ahead and file ethnic cleansing under, whoops, classified, for the next 50 years. Why? Because history is written by winners. If gender liberation is our kryptonite, Elon will mine Krypton. Trump has been honest since January 20th about the ceasefire deal inevitably never reaching stage 2, meaning that he feels bad about it, sorta, but was admitting that the temporary ceasefire was all he was going to do for Gaza. I believed him but hoped Witkoff would prove us wrong. The Democratic Party? I know you're blue dog and I respect that big time. I don't know what progressives think libertarian socialism means, but I run a 10K strong fan club for AOC and another 2K one for Ilhan. The Democrats need people like me, and they reject me for asking them to be better. The only difference between me and you is that I don't get blindsided by partisan hacks. Typical optimist, you still have too much faith in the Democrats, which makes your criticisms of AOC pretty ironic in my opinion. See Ryan Grimm's comment better articulating what I've said all along. The left hates AOC for being a team player. But you hold on to the Dems too long, and at great cost. I believe you could have helped facilitate the ceasefire deal yourselves had I been at TYT, not during the Trump admin but last summer. As usual, I made a pretty convincing video about it that no one watched, and here it is. I have no hope that the Democrats will get it figured out in time. We all know that we are toast, so I think we need to begin talking seriously about our standing in the world. Consider how easy it would be to remove Israel and the US from the United Nations as permanent member states with veto power. About 170 business class tickets to a Geneva, Switzerland Westin Hotel banquet hall ought to do it, forming the UN 2.0. The old abandoned New York building becomes a museum, a relic of American exceptionalism, if not a future Trump hotel and casino. We should all be asking why we are not taking Israel to world war as the US's greatest generation once did. I'm not saying we must fight, at least not yet. I hope our sunlight on the problems we collectively face as a global economy get the world to straighten itself out before that happens, and sanctions the absolute fuck out of Israel. These are the end times, but nobody treats them with the respect they deserve. We are facing a rapidly changing climate and 1.2 billion refugees by 2050. Our greatest generation would have said that if a Holocaust wasn't worth fighting for, then nothing is. If we are so war-weary that we wouldn't stop a genocide, what does that say of our society's apathy? You either put Gaza first or you don't, and if you're not willing to go to war, then you simply can't say you support Palestinian freedom, not with a straight face. It's the same for everything else. If we're not willing to fight, with our Second Amendment, for climate action, judicial, prison, and campaign finance reform, and etc., then what are we even doing? Protests and boycotts are not working. Democracy is clearly dead. So why doesn't anyone on the network or any other communicate with the urgency necessary to meet the crisis? How long do you think you have before Trump shuts the Young Turks down? Turks, as in the country of Turkey? That sounds like this Cenk Uyghur person might be a radical Islamist sympathizer to me. And you're practically an enemy of empire already. I feel like every day of my life is the Adam McKay film, Don't Look Up. We need to start aggressively preparing for the potential of World War III and Civil War 2.0. And we haven't even chosen sides yet. We need to be discussing these issues as you talk about anything else. If we don't, they will happen, and we will all still be pointing fingers. The trans movement must be part of that conversation, especially should we, as a society, decide that the T people have a right to, exist. Cenk, I had just done what you said a week ago. Again, weird. Asking my local party for Socialism and Liberation chapter and University of New Mexico Israel divestment group if we could coordinate a legal public protest out front of the Jewish Cultural Center. If I ended up labeled a terrorist sympathizer on the local news, good. But even Albuquerque PSL, who have organized protests and meetings I've attended, inferred my intentions were based in anti-Semitism, condemning me for the suggestion. So thank you, again, for saying in your broadcast last week, that more Jewish Americans need to stand up. ABQPSL changed their communication rules immediately after my first email. This is often the case with me. The problem is people don't want answers, they want to feel good. Frankly, I don't mind being that guy who occasionally emerges from the shadows to set a few fires so that you, and I mean Cenk, stays above the fray for future political aspirations, and I can get you there. I would be president if I needed to be. I believe I would do a very good job and become historically popular, but I'd rather it be whomever it needs to be, and Cenk Uygur would be at or near the top of my list. If Trump can have 3 terms, naturalized citizens can be president too, but not if they are all deported first. TYT needs a hot head and a leather jacket, a little bit of Hollywood, and I'm a little bit of Hollywood Cenk, a very little bit. Each network needs a Tucker, and I was, actually, in the Francis Ford Coppola movie Tucker. So clearly, you need me, I need you, and the entire planet needs both of us. Do we not live in a country where we can freely express our views, or only when we agree, as we commonly accuse Republicans? Who does the T really represent? According to Matt Walsh, 1.3 million to Big Pharma. And you might discredit him, but I know you would not discredit his audience. It's time the DNC becomes the party it claims to be, one inclusive of all faiths, even if that includes radical Chinese, and/or George Soros-funded terrorist sympathizers whose religious extremism is based in strict, mean-spirited science, rudely dictating that men can't have babies, except for Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course. You might lose 10% of your paid subscribers, but you'll gain 20% in 6 months, and 60% in 2 years. I'm making up these numbers, but I believe I can produce them. And if you've reached the end of this letter, I'm guessing you believe so too. I don't track your analytics or anything. I've just been a supporter for a while, and it certainly doesn't seem to me that you're expanding your base with the urgency it must be done. You have built an incredible platform over the years, a reliable 90s-era CNN. I cannot and would not discount that. But you're a wolf blitzer. It is now time to give that platform teeth, and that is where I come in. Progressives must mutiny. Bernie and AOC are off to a good start, but that's what I was telling them needed to happen in the summer of 2022 on my Only the Planet Matters YouTube channel. And, as a fanny of Facts and Fire on Instagram said 2 days ago, the Democratic Socialists of America are far too late, running a 2028 campaign, which may never happen. Republicans have all sorts of factions, but there are none among the Democrats who reflect the party majority's belief. Crazy. None of us, the forgotten white man, are represented as constituents within the entire left. Everyone should be happy with who they are, we are told, unless who you are is a straight white man, in which case, you must change gender, for us, to be happy with you. Even in bad faith, one can't say they'd vote against their own interests as Trump supporters if they didn't feel like such an underserved community of second-class citizens. I know that you know there are reachable, die-hard MAGA, but only if they believed that TYT was the boring news network with no monster trucks. Okay, occasional monster trucks, but at least they'd know they could always come to us for the truth. The Democrats were openly lying to the country. Spinning truth is how they divide America. There can only be one truth, regardless of how many feelings could be hurt, including the poor CEOs of oil companies and other interest-bearing bourgeoisie. It should be prosecutable to outright lie, as or on behalf of a public entity, including congressional office. If facts were facts, yes, we'd still be a two-party system, but rather than blues versus reds, we'd be the billionaires versus everyone else. The Republicans are a truly inclusive tent. The Democrats? Give me a break. Is it not the idiom that Democrats cannibalize their own? We need to have equal representation in the party if libertarians like me, or even socialists like me as well, are to caucus with you. On trans rights, I'm actually somewhat near to where you are. I know you and Anna are weary of this, and I appreciate your concerns. But you made a great first step in the last few days, once again finding the right direction, inspiring the completion of this letter. Let's build on this together. Keep pulling the sweater, eventually the whole thing will unravel. David Duchovny.